So now the interesting thing is I actually have more than one 049 engine. So like many people who've been in the hobby for a while, you tend to collect these things as they're pretty cheap. Even back in the day, they weren't all that expensive, and you find some at swap meets or whatever. So over the years, I've actually collected quite a few 049s. Sometimes people give them to me. Sometimes I've had old ones I bought. I just don't know where they came from. So after scrummaging around, I actually found two that I think are good candidates that I've actually mounted to this board. I need to run them. I have a TD 051 actually, if I remember correctly. This one I know runs, although I haven't run it in quite a while and I had to lubricate it a little bit. But I want to run it again, just see how well it runs and to get an idea if I want to use this one or this one, which is basically, I think, a baby bee with an extra large gas tank on it. This plane won't require much power, so I'm basically just going to see which one seems to run the best and most consistent and go with that. And this one I've also was kind of degunked and lubricated and seems to be flipping around pretty fine, so I need to double check that the glow head is still working good. In fact, this one's didn't even notice that. This one is loose. So that's not going to run well. I'm going to have to tighten that up, but since it's off, I'm going to check the glow head and make sure it ignites good. Though something interesting happened. My cameraman Jeff says, "Hey, I got this 049 engine. It was mounted some remnants of a plane. Are you interested in it?" And I said, "Well, that sounds pretty good. Sure, I'll take a look at it." And he comes up with this. And this is interesting because this is a TD 049, which is nice. TD series are a little more power, but it has a throttle sleeve on it. And I thought, wow, that's really nice. I actually never had an 049 with a throttle sleeve like this, for an airplane, that is. There's a caveat on that. But anyways, I thought, well, that is really nice. If this works, this is actually perfect for this plane because throttle, I'd love to put a throttle on it. It doesn't need a lot of power to fly this thing. This thing is basically a trainer plane. And it gives me an opportunity to try something a little bit different that I never had before. So I'm really looking forward to using this. However, when I got it, it was pretty gunked up. It would barely turn. It was pretty gunked up. It needed some lubrication. So what I decided to do is put it in a container filled with 91% isopropyl alcohol and let that sit overnight and see how that worked and kind of clean it up. I heard that was a good thing to do with them. I thought, normally I just spray some WD-40 and play with it for a while with lubrication. But I thought, well, I'll try it a little bit different. I'll put it in the alcohol. And after I've done that, I pulled it out. It actually does seem to be, this is moving a lot freer than it used to. And it turns over really nicely. It sounds like it actually has some pretty good compression on it. So I'm pretty happy with this. I think I will spray just a little bit of WD-40 on it and make sure I kind of degrease it and take off any moisture off of it and then lubricate it some. And I'll also give this one a try. However, I only have one mount and I have a TD already mounted on it. So I'm going to try this one last after I tried the other two engines. So let's see how they run. So the first step is to see if the first engine still glows. Yep, still some life in the old head. With the head off, I noticed that the metal seal ring was bent out of whack. So I used another one from a donor engine and put everything back together. Next up was to mount the other TD engine with the throttle. To make room for the servo linkage, I needed to reverse the needle valve assembly, which is really easy with these engines. With both engines mounted, it was time to crank them up. Fuel up and primed, the reed valve engine showed some signs of life at first. But I just couldn't get it to run for more than a few seconds at a time. Not really sure what was the problem, but I was pretty sure I would need to completely disassemble it to find the issue. The other engine, however, pretty much cranked right up, after a little bit of convincing. and to my delight, the throttle seemed to work pretty well. I do believe I found my engine. Though I forgot how messy these things can be. Yeesh. Okay, so good news and bad news. The good news is the engine I really liked, I was hoping it would run well, ran well. This is the one that has an adjustable throttle, sort of like a TD-049, so it's got a little extra power if I need it, but it has a throttle sleeve on it. And it was the first time I actually ran an engine like this with a throttle sleeve. And so it's been very interesting. It started a little rough the first time, but after a couple of run-ins, a couple of tanks of fuel, I was able to get the needle valve set pretty close to where I want. It's a little slightly on the rich side, but I'm going to leave it like that for a little bit for now. So it works great. The little backplate tank still works pretty good. So I'm really happy, and this is ultimately the engine I'm going to go with. Unfortunately, the other engine, number 2, I guess the Baby B, it kind of started once, ran kind of roughly, and then would not start again. I still can't get it to start again, so I suspect the glow head probably went bad. It is old, and the head looks a little rough on the inside, even though it still glows, but I understand sometimes the coating can wear off on a nichrome wire or whatever kind of wire they have inside there. So this is one of those things I probably at some point may invest in a new glow head for it, or pull one off another engine and see if it runs. So it's kind of sad, but it's one of those things I'll revisit sometime in the future. So for now, I am going to take this and bolt it on to this. Being a throttleable engine, I needed to install the throttle servo. I just need to add a third servo rail, bolt in the throttle servo, and feed in the throttle control rod. Screw the engine to the firewall, and a quick test shows that the throttle servo setup works like a charm. Slap on the wheels, install the receiver, and I'm ready for action. The very first flights were to be at Small Steps Fly-In in Little Rock, Arkansas, where my buddy Lee and I took a road trip from Texas.
We are going slow.
Small Steps specializes in small model airplanes and will be a perfect venue to fly the QT. Let's hope I don't botch it in front of a live audience. All right, I'm here with my brand new QT. This is going to be the maiden flight. I just run the engine and set the throttles. It's running good. Everything, all systems are go. This is a plane I've always wanted to fly. I finally get a chance to fly it with a classic 049 engine. Hopefully I have my hearing when I'm done with this. So let's get her started and see how she flies. Well, at least the engine fired right up. I hope that is a good omen. A flawless launch and a nice stable climb out. The engine had plenty of power and the controls felt really good. The color scheme was easy to see and I was instantly confident in its performance. Plus, I had throttle. So much so that I immediately decided to try some simple aerobatics. Loops and rudder-only rolls were easy and a delight to perform. But all too soon, I was out of fuel. Setting up for the glide home, the QT was an absolute sweetheart.
QT's coming in, dead stick. Fan-freaking-tastic. Flies great. A little sensitive on some of the controls, but that's no problem. I'll desensitize it. Throttle works great. I love the throttle. That's just, I can just kind of putt around. It's actually pretty responsive, which I'm surprised. And great glide ratio. I'm a happy puppy. That's just, from start to finish, it's been a great project. I'm happy I got a nice successful flight out of it. And it's a keeper. I'm going to keep it just like it is.
Walk of shame. Looks great.
So as you can see, the QT scratch build has actually been a total success. I've got a wonderful flying plane and a little bit of my childhood back at the same time. I've actually had a lot of fun building and flying this little guy. And to be honest, I think the only change I'll make is to see if I can shove a larger fuel tank into it. 2-minute flights are just not quite enough for as much fun as this plane is. And of course, I know a lot of you are probably not all that interested in fooling around with these cantankerous Cox engines, though you should. The QT will no doubt make a great electric plane with a lightweight electric motor setup as well.
Walk of shame.